we're getting ready to draw the features of the face. Where we left off was we said there were 5 equal eye lengths across the head. Well, now we're going to try to draw an eye. Now what I'm going to do is, because it's a little difficult to kind of magnify this image back and forth, I'm going to draw an eye on a larger piece of paper to show you how to draw the shape of an eye, and then I will be drawing it on here. And it's up to you. You can either pause the video and draw it directly on your practice sheet if you want, or if you want to do what I'm doing and draw it on a big piece of paper as practice and then draw it on here smaller, that's up to you. But when you draw the eyes, eyeballs are actually round, they're very spherical, but when we look at a person's eyes, they're usually more of a football shape. And so you can start off with a football, kind of generically speaking. It's going to be pointy on both ends. Now, the inside of the eye, when I say the inside of the eye, I'm talking about the inside of the eye that's closest to the nose. It's usually going to taper in there a little bit. So usually it's not going to be like a perfect football shape. It's going to be more like a little bit like kind of like the end of a lemon, how it gets a little skinnier there at the end. And so sometimes you'll see that. Now, ultimately, when you're drawing a person's eyes, you actually look at their eyes and draw them how they look, because not everyone's eyes are the same. Some people have smaller eyes, larger eyes. These are just approximate truths about eyes. Also, in here, there's going to be a tear duct. So that's a little pink part inside your eye. So you can separate the white of the eye from the pink part of the eye. And sometimes you might have a little bit of a muscle line there. You might even add a little bit of shading to it or something. But that's going to be the tear duct of the eye. Now, we're going to draw the iris. That's the colored part of the eye. Now, if you look at your eye in a mirror, if you want to pause this video and go look at your eye in a mirror, or someone else's eye, or a picture of someone's eye, usually you don't see the entire circle. Usually part of that circle is hidden, usually above the eye, top of the eye for sure. Sometimes the bottom is hidden too. So when we draw the eye, you don't see the entire circle, but I'm going to encourage you to draw the entire circle, and I'll explain why in a minute. It will actually help you make it look better. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw kind of a circle, and I don't worry about getting a perfect circle. I just kind of go loosely and lightly several times until I get something that is close. And you can either show all of it or some of it. That's up to you. But I usually try to draw the entire shape. Now, one of the reasons why I draw the entire shape is that when I tell people you can't see the entire eye, what a lot of people will do is they'll put a parentheses like here and a parentheses here. And it usually looks really, really like this. It looks like a cat's eye, which is cool, but not when you're trying to draw a realistic eye. And there's another reason why I draw the entire circle too. Inside the middle of the iris, the colored part of the eye, there's a pupil. The pupil is it looks black, it's actually clear, it allows light to come in so you can see. But that pupil is also a circle. Well, the pupil is in the middle of the top and bottom of the iris. So by keeping the entire circle, we know where the middle, where the pupil ought to be. If we didn't draw the top of the eye, a lot of people try to put the pupil in the middle of the revealed space, and they end up making the pupil lower than it needs to. So it makes it look like the person is looking down at you, and it's kind of weird. So that's one of the reasons I recommend drawing the full circle. So after you get that done, you don't need the top of this anymore. Okay? Now, what I'm going to do is I'm not going to fill this in all black yet because I want to make the eyes look alive. So I'm going to draw maybe a highlight shape, maybe a couple of squares or a couple of circles to make it look like light is reflecting off of this eye. Don't do this with really hard lines because it'll look like confetti fell on their eyeball or something. It's kind of strange. But after I draw that, I'm going to come in and I'm going to make the pupil look a little more solid. And I'm going to start shading it in and make it as black as I can make it. And I try to shade around these highlights. By putting these highlights on here, it makes the eyes look like they have moisture to them. It makes the person look like they're alive. It's a little more realistic. Okay? Alright, so I go in and I fill that in all nice and black. And then for the iris, the color part of the eye, some people have blue eyes, some are dark blue, some are light blue, some are gray, some are brown and dark brown. Sometimes someone's eyes are so dark you can almost not tell the difference between their pupil and their iris. But it's always a good idea to make them look different. So what I'm going to do is I want to make this thing look like it's got a little bit of color. I'm not going to make this a really, really dark eye, but I am going to go in and I'm going to add a little bit of shading to it. And I'm just going to go with something kind of light, just so that I can show you some contrast. it's better if you're doing this for like a real drawing. This is just a demo, so it's okay if it's not perfect. It's a good idea to keep your pencil strokes closer together than what I'm doing, but this is just practice. So I'm going to go in, I'm going to try to keep those white reflections nice and clean. And I might even be able to go in and erase away the outlines of them a little bit if I make the eyes even darker, so that way the reflections pop out more. I can do that, and the reflections show up without having an actual dark line on there. Now, eyes have textures to them, so sometimes you can put little suggested textures. I wouldn't make really straight lines, really hard lines. Think of them as little textures that radiate outward, kind of like, you know how like when you draw sun when you were a little kid, like you might have rays, but I would do them really light. I wouldn't do them really hard or dark, because then they look kind of robotic, you know, like it's some kind of cyborg or something. Sometimes people have a dark ring around the outside of their iris. Not everybody does, but some people do. I'm going to just do it because I think it looks cool, but the best thing to do is actually look at the eye of the person that you're drawing, whether it be from life or from a picture, and just kind of look and see what their eyes are doing. And you can go in and put textures. Again, the textures need to be light. They don't need to be really dark. If they have, like, you know, blood vessels in the white of their eyes, I probably wouldn't draw those. And the reason why I wouldn't is because usually we go too dark with those, and it makes them look really bad. It makes them look like they haven't had sleep for like 10 days or something. So I would just probably avoid doing that altogether. But this is just an idea of how you could start drawing an eye. So what I'm going to do real quick, I'm going to start drawing one right here. Again, football shape. I taper it in a little bit. I come over here, draw another football shape, and I kind of use my pencil to kind of help me get the sizes the same. And I can tweak it a little bit as I need to. Put in the tear duct. Put in the tear duct. Give it a little bit of shade, a little bit of shade. Okay. Now I'm going to draw the whole circle lightly. And I'm going to do the same thing over here. And I might use my pencil to kind of help me get the same height. And again, I recommend doing this with me. You can pause the video if you need to. Okay. All right. Let's make those a little more identical. All right. Got that. Let's put the pupils in. Notice that the pupil's pretty close to the eye level here, but it's in the middle of my circle. Try to make them the same size. I'm going to suggest some reflections. Now I'm going to darken my pupil. And it's going to be hard to get lots of detail because we are drawing kind of small here. If we were drawing bigger, we could do a lot more with the texture of the eyes, but we'll just suggest it. I'm going to go ahead and commit kind of to the outline of the iris. Get rid of the top of the circle. I can probably go ahead and get rid of these guidelines too, honestly, because they've served their purpose. I've got the eye where it needs to be. And then I'm going to add a little color to the iris. Maybe suggest a little bit of texture, not too much, just a little bit of texture. And again, I'm working kind of quickly because this is just a demonstration. And I might go back in and maybe just darken this line a little bit more. It'll help us a little bit later. Alright, now I've got my eyes. Now, I'm going to do a couple more things before I stop this video. Let's talk about eyelids. Eyelids are going to be really skinny here, and they get a little bit bigger as they hit the top. There's more space here than there is here, and they get skinnier as they go down. And there's a chance that we might not even see the top of the eyelid. Sometimes the brow bone kind of comes in and cuts off the top of that eyelid where we can't even see it. It just depends on the person. So you have to really look at the picture or the actual person you're drawing. The bottom eyelid will not be this big. It'll be really small. It'll go in like this. really small. And actually, this is not the eyelid. This is actually the lip of the bottom eyelid. Um, if you want to suggest kind of like the lower part of the eye, you could take your pencil and do a light line like so, and just very lightly shade it in, just a little bit. That way it kind of looks like there's that space. If you go too dark with it, it'll look like a zombie or an insomniac, and you don't want to do that. So we'll go over here real quick. Let's go ahead and add in the eyelids. I'll go ahead and show the whole eyelids for now. I try to make them the same height. Put in the little lid line of the bottom eyelid here. And that kind of gets us to our next point of the video.